Guten Morgen, it's Morgan. Welcome to Murder in the Morning. Please subscribe and like this video if you'd like to support me or my channel. Get ready with me while I talk about a true crime story. Today's story is going to be about Lori Vallow. This was requested by some of you viewers, so I'm going to do my best to tell this story. It's super long and a big case, so it's definitely going to be 2 parts, but it could be 3 parts just depending on how long it takes. So let's get started. Lori Vallow was born Lori Noreen Cox on June 26, 1973 in San Bernardino, California. So she was raised in Southern California, and she was one of 5 children. She has 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and one of her brothers will be important later in the story. She was on the cheer team, and she was super, I don't know, she was a good friend. Her friend said she was funny, but she didn't really talk to people outside of her friend group. She was more reserved and kind of quieter around people she wasn't super good friends with, which I'm kind of the same way. I'm really loud around my friends, but around people I don't know, I kind of tend to stay quiet. She was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so that's kind of just her upbringing. She didn't date a whole bunch, but she had a boyfriend her senior year, and she ended up marrying him the year after she graduated high school in 1992. So this marriage didn't last very long, and they divorced, and she married her second husband, William Lagiona, on October 22nd, 1995 in Travis County, Texas, when she was 22 years old, and they had a son named Colby in 1996. So she's on to her second husband already, and this marriage does not last long either. They get divorced February 25th of 1998, and then she meets Joseph Anthony Ryan in 2001. He was 43 at the time. So just a little bit about Joseph. He was born in 1958. He was the oldest of 5 children, so they both have 5 kids in their family. But they were separated, his siblings and him were separated and put into foster care. So while foster care, there's a lot of good people, there's also a lot of bad people, and just the fact that they all got separated is so sad. Because of this, he had a huge desperation for family. He wanted to be a dad, he wanted to be a husband so bad, but he just couldn't find the right person. And just a testament of his character and how bad he wanted a family. While he was in the Navy, he got all of his siblings together for Thanksgiving, and he paid for them to all meet. He was like, I'll handle all the travel arrangements, I'll handle all the food, but I want to have a Thanksgiving meal with my family because, they've been separated since he was a child. So he was a very successful business owner, and like I said, all he wanted was to be a dad, but he kept waiting and waiting. He didn't get married in his 20s, his 30s. He's 43 when he meets Lori, all because he wanted the perfect family, and he wanted the perfect opportunity and wife and all of this stuff, and it's just a shame that he waited for Lori. Well, Lori was a hairdresser when they met, and she was in her late 20s, so he's 43 and she's in her late 20s. They got engaged, but Joe, who was not religious at all, had to convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which he did so that they could get married. Well, they got engaged 2 months after meeting, and then they get married. Joseph adopts Colby, her kid from her second marriage. Lori quickly gets pregnant with daughter Tylee, and she's born in 2002. So there is kind of some speculation whether Tylee is actually Joseph's kid, just because Joseph was like, she looks just like me, but his sister Annie was like, okay. I guess everyone in the family thought that Tylee didn't look anything like Joseph, and they all just played along so that he wouldn't, I don't know, not that they thought Lori had cheated, but he had wanted a family so bad that they were like, yeah, she looks just like you, even though she didn't. But there is speculation that Lori might have cheated just because they met, she got pregnant, they had the baby. So it's kind of just the timing is weird, plus the baby didn't look like him, and also Lori has a later on history of cheating. So they had met in Texas, but once they got married, he bought a super duper nice house in Phoenix, Arizona, and so they move. And his youngest sister, Annie, that I had been talking about before, she comes to visit the house, and it's like the first big rain of the season, and the roof starts leaking. And I guess that Joseph had a hair trigger temper, and when the roof started leaking, he lost it. And he started punching walls, which is like, if you're so angry that the house isn't like as nice as you thought, or that something's going wrong in the house, why would you make more things go wrong? Because then when you finally cool off, you're going to be like, oh, here's another thing that I have to fix. Anyway, so he starts punching walls and swearing and freaking out in front of his kids. And Tylee's like a baby at this point. And in front of Colby and his sister and his wife, Lori. And so his sister was so mad. She was like so, not embarrassed, but she was just like so angry that he would act like this that she never saw him again. Like, she was like, I'm cutting off ties with you. Like, I'm leaving. And she never saw him again, which she later regrets. But anyways, Joseph, since he had grown up poor, he just was so humiliated by the fact that this house that he bought, like, he felt like he was so successful and all this stuff, but this leak just made him feel like, here's just proof that I'll never be good enough, that even with all the money in the world, like, I still bought a crappy house and this bad thing happened to me. But that kind of just set off the tone for the rest of the marriage and the rest of the relationship, because it's quite a reaction and not something you want young children around. So Lori started seeking attention elsewhere. She does a Miss Texas beauty pageant in 2004. And you know how they like ask you questions and they want you to introduce yourself and all this stuff? Well, Lori says this, and there's a recording of her saying this: being a mom is very important to me, and a good wife, and a good worker. And being all those things together is not easy. So I'm basically a ticking time bomb. She says it just like that. She's like, I'm basically a ticking time bomb. And it's like, okay, well, that didn't age well. She is crazy. Oh my gosh. So she doesn't win the beauty pageant, and it's like, wow, that's surprising. A ticking time bomb didn't win the beauty pageant? That's weird. Anyways, so she then goes on Wheel of Fortune, and she wins $17,000. And she had told Joe that God had told her that she was going to go on Wheel of Fortune. So I wonder why he didn't tell her that she wasn't going to win the Miss Texas pageant, because then she wouldn't have had to do it. They get divorced in 2004, shortly after the pageant. And the custody battle was so messy. It was so bad. They both wanted custody of the children. Lori's son, Colby, confided in Lori that Joe had been sexually and physically abusing him. And so that was the real motivator. Well, that was supposedly the real motivator behind the custody, because Lori didn't want him to get any custody whatsoever. She didn't want him around her children at all. And there had been a lot of speculation at the time that Lori was just manipulating Colby into saying this, but after everything that's come out with Lori, Colby has said he's an adult now, and he has said, no, Joe definitely physically and sexually abused him, and went as far to say like he would spank him and hit him in the head and think it was like funny and just like do all this stuff. But we don't know if it ever happened to Tylee. Lori said that it had, but there's no proof, and we obviously can't ask Tylee anymore. So Lori said to the mental health custody workers, they brought in to like see if the relationship is healthy between the kids and Joe, and to see if Joe and Lori, either one of them, were healthy in the mind. And Lori, if these people are trying to see if you're like okay mentally, you probably shouldn't like say bad stuff. I don't know. But she says to this custody worker, if I don't win, if the case doesn't go the way I want, then I'm taking the kids to Mexico. And it's like, is that a threat? like, you can't do that. If we give custody to the dad, then you can't just take them and go. But that's what she said. But it works out for her. It goes the way she wants because she gets custody of Tylee. But Joe still gets visitation, and the court says that he has to stay within 100 miles of the family so that visitation is easier, and that he gets 2 weeks in the summer with Tylee. So shortly after the divorce, Lori marries her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, on February 24th, 2006 in Las Vegas. So May of 2006, Joe files a motion against Lori saying that she's denying him visitation rights and that she's been hiding Tylee from him for a month. He also says, like, hey, I need to get my legal fees back. She needs to be in prison. Like, she needs a mental health evaluation, all of this stuff, because she can't do that. You know, it's against the rules. The court does end up ordering that she gets a mental health evaluation because she said to the court that she would rather choose death than let Tylee see her father. And I mean, if she thought he was sexually abusing or physically abusing Tylee in any way, I mean, that makes total sense. I'd do the same. Like, there's no way I would let my child be with someone that's going to abuse her knowingly. I would not let that happen. But the way she goes about it, like, I'm going to take the kids to Mexico, I would choose death. All of this stuff is just a little extreme. And so they're like, yeah, maybe you do need to get checked out by a psychologist. Anyway, so she does that, and they're like, oh, whatever, she's fine. So Tylee doesn't see her father again until August 2007. Oh my goodness. So Joe had her for the weekend, and he drops her off, and he's walking back to his car. So it's like, yeah, he's doing a great job. He didn't see his kid for over a year. And then when he finally has a chance to see her again, he follows the rules, drops her off exactly when she's supposed to be dropped off. He's walking back to his car when Alex, Lori's brother, remember I said one of her brothers was going to be important? Her brother goes, hey, Joe, we need to talk. And so Joseph, like, turns around, and Alex brings out a stun gun and tases Joe twice. So then Alex takes off. A witness calls 911, and then they arrest Alex, and he goes to jail for 90 days. I don't know what he was trying. I think he was trying to, like, intimidate Joe, or I don't know, maybe he thought that, what if you did something to Tylee over the weekend, or I don't even know. But bro was not smart, because obviously Joe knows who you are, and you're gonna go to jail. But he only goes for 90 days, which I don't know how long he should go to jail for, but I just wish there was a way to, like, really sink it in. Like, you can't do this to people. Anyways, while he's in jail, he asks his friends to send pictures of Joe to him while he's in jail so that his cellmates can hang out with Joe. So I just feel like that's kind of a threat to be like, oh yeah, my jail buddies really want to hang out with you, Joe. So friend, you should send me pictures of Joe so they know exactly what it looks like and his whereabouts. So tell me, like, where is he at right now? What's going on? So when they get out of jail, they can hit him up. Okay. So skip to 2018. Annie, Joe's youngest sister, the one who had gone to the house and was kind of estranged from him, she gets a call saying that someone needs to claim Joe's body. She's like, what? What are you talking about? And she finds out that Joe has been dead for over a month and no one told her. So she calls Lori and she's like, excuse me, because she thinks, like, that they're friends. Like, she thinks she and Lori are, she said Lori was like a sister to her. So she calls up Lori and she's like, excuse me, what the heck happened to my brother? And Lori's like, oh, I didn't think you'd care. Like, you hadn't talked to him since that whole situation, so I didn't think you'd care. I didn't think you'd mind or even want to know that your brother is dead. So Lori she wouldn't claim the body, but she wouldn't tell anyone else, like his family, that he was dead either. So the body was just chilling there. So he died from cardiac arrest at 53, and the neighbor called the cops for a wellness check because they smelt something bad over by him. So when the police show up, he had been dead for over a week. So 6 months later, Lori is at a religious gathering and someone takes a recording of what she's saying. And she talks about how, like, the whole custody battle, the sexual abuse on Colby. And she's just talking about the whole thing, her whole problems, issues with Joe. And she says, and I quote, "I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him as the scriptures say. I just felt I couldn't take it anymore. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things like, if it comes again, shoot once. If it comes again, shoot twice. If it comes 3 times, shoot 3 times. There it is. There's my answer. End quote. She said it just like that too. She was like, there's my answer. Like right there. There it is. There's my answer. And so she's trying to like go through the scriptures and the Bible to justify killing people in general, people that wrong her. I did a quick Google search and I've read the Bible, and I don't think anywhere it says, if it comes again, shoot once. If it comes again, shoot twice. If it comes again, shoot 3 times. The only time it even says shoot is like about someone shooting an arrow or something like that. So like, obviously there weren't guns back then, but I'm like, dude, you are totally misinterpreting the Bible, because there's no way that it says it like that or that at all. So, whoa. If I were the people there and she literally says, I was going to murder him, I wanted to kill him. Yo, do something about that. That chick is psycho if she's saying that. Especially in public. Like, oh my gosh. Anyways, so, but she says like, obviously I didn't have to because he's dead. Okay, that's real sus. Real sus. We'll probably talk more about it later in part 2. So Annie, Joe's youngest sister, is worried about Tylee for a good reason. So she goes to Arizona to check on her, and Annie said that Lori was constantly talking about the end of the world and the end times and how they were all gonna die and how it was coming very soon. And then Lori tells Annie, sometimes I think it'd be better to just put my kids in a car and go over the side of the cliff rather than endure what's going to happen. I'm sorry, but that's the moment that you call the cops and you get those kids taken away from her, because she is saying that sometimes I think it'd be better just to kill my kids and myself than to like have the end of times come. You cannot do that. You are a mother. And the worst part of this is that Tylee is in the room when she's saying this. Like, oh, great, Mom, thanks. You think about murdering me. Okay, cool, great. Lori says to both Tylee and to Joe's sister, the world is better off without Joe. And it's like, he's already dead, just let it go, okay? Don't say that in front of them. They don't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear that. So then Annie decides to estrange herself from Lori, and basically she just dips and is like, oh, whatever, like, this chick's crazy. But she's not like, let me go save my niece. She's not like, let me help them, let me get police involved, let me get someone involved. No, she's just like, I'm done talking to them. That's it. So now onto the relationship with Charles Vallow. So Charles has, Lori is his 3rd wife. So his first wife is Kimberly, and they got married when Kimberly was 19 and he was 26. And he said to her, your name is my wife. So that is a pretty douchebag move, pretty trash human being. But even with that, he doesn't deserve what happens to him. His second wife, they moved to Austin and he marries Cheryl, and they adopt one of Charles's nephews, and Cheryl has a son, but they also get divorced. And when Cheryl met Lori, she really liked her at first, and she was like happy that he had found someone and that Lori could take Charles off of her so that she wouldn't have to deal with him. But they still had they both had a really nasty custody battle, and it was weird. They were in the same town, and so they were put in the same family court. So they're both having their custody battles in the same exact court, and they're like, oh, hey, what's up? Hi. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to get my kids. Oh, same, me too. I'm actually dating your ex-husband, and now I'm married to your ex-husband. Don't get my kids. Because like Cheryl liked her, but at the same time she still wanted custody of her kids and not to Charles. So Charles was Catholic, but of course Lori had him convert to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints so that they could be together, and he did. They ended up moving to Phoenix, Arizona, and this is when they adopt Joshua Jackson Vallow, called JJ. This was in 2013. He was autistic. He was the biological grandson of Charles's sister, Kay Woodcock. So it's Charles's grandnephew. Okay, so the grandparents had originally been taking care of JJ, but because he's autistic, they just didn't have enough time for him. They couldn't give him the attention that he needed. And Charles was like, oh yeah, we'd love to take JJ, keep it in the family. And Lori was a really great mom to him and Tylee at the time. Tylee's friends said that Lori was the kind of mom that you could talk to and she would listen and you could confide in her and she cared. If only it had ended just like that, that would have been great. They adopt JJ and he gets a service dog named Bailey because he had trouble sleeping. And once he got the dog and, was with Charles and Lori, he was so happy and he was just thriving. So then the Vallows move to Hawaii in 2014 and they start a juice bar, which is super fun. But then they moved back to Arizona in 2018 and this is around when Joe dies. So they moved back because it was just easier for Charles's work. He was he owned an investment company. So it was just easier for him to handle it from Arizona. Lori didn't work. She did homeschool Tylee, but Charles definitely spoiled her. When they moved back to Arizona, this is when Lori's behavior completely changed. And they started having marital issues because Lori told Charles that she had been reincarnated and was now a god and was sent by God to relay the teachings of the second coming of Jesus Christ. And that the end of the world would happen July 22nd, 2020. So, sorry, Lori, I guess you were wrong because the world is still going and you have to suffer the consequences for your actions. I know you wish the world had ended July 22nd, 2020, but unfortunately it didn't. I mean, unfortunately for you, it didn't. But technically her whole world did end because of what she did. She also told him that only 144,000 people were going to survive the end of the world, that were going to be saved. She had told other people, so like her friends and just other people, that there was an evil demon living inside of Charles and that she was basically just waiting for a call any day now that he was dead. So I don't know if she thought that it was going to be like from God was going to kill Charles or that the demon inside him was going to kill Charles or somebody else was going to kill Charles, but she was basically like, yeah, any day now, he's going to die. Just wait. He filed for divorce in February 2019 because, as he told his family, he was afraid for his life. Lori had told him that she was going to kill him and that angels were going to descend from heaven and dispose of the body. And she was going to get away with it. So she legit told him, I'm going to murder you and I'm going to get away with it. So yeah, I too would file for divorce and be like, she's crazy and I don't feel safe. And also, I don't think that's what angels' like number one priority is. I don't think that they're just gonna, oh, hey Lori, you killed someone. Okay, let me take care of that. Let me dispose of the body real quick. Wouldn't want you to get in trouble. I don't think that's what angels' number one priority is, or that they're just on like speed dial for Lori. Whenever she decides to kill someone, they're like, clean up that body. So Lori leaves Arizona and she takes Tylee with her and she goes to Hawaii to visit one of her friends, April, that she met at church. She tells April everything that she's told Charles, that he's an evil demon, that, she can kill him and get away with it. And she tells April that, hey, guess what? You are going to be saved. You're one of the 144,000 people that's going to be saved. So that's super great. I can trust you. You're obviously not a demon. April was confused because she was also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she was under the idea that Lori was too, but she was confused because this is not what they teach, and this is not what they preach. And so she's like, Lori, are you good, fam? This isn't what we believe. So it was at that time that it became very apparent that Lori was under her own faith church delusion that she came up with. She, like I said before, she believed that she was reincarnated as a god and was basically there to, save the world. Well, only 144,000 people. But April said that Tylee was sleeping a lot and seemed very depressed. And, for what we know that happens later, it wouldn't be surprising if Lori had been drugging her. Maybe she was just depressed from, hearing that all these people are going to die, that her dad's a demon, her stepdad, her other dad is already dead. So it would make sense if she was depressed too, just from all this gloom and doom. When they get back from Hawaii, Lori takes $35,000 out of their joint account and she cancels Charles's flight home. So he's on a business trip and she cancels his flight to come home, and then she has a friend drive her to the airport, and then she takes his car from the airport. So he has to book a $600 flight home, then he has to get a ride home. So when he gets home, he's locked out of the house, his stuff is all over the lawn, all of his stuff is thrown out, and he calls the cops. And he's like, oh my goodness, this chick has said she's gonna kill me. She locked me out of the house. I'm scared for my life. I'm scared for my children. All of this stuff. He tells the cops that he's very concerned about her mental health and about the safety of the children, because he's like, I don't know if she's going to take him. I don't know if she's going to hurt him. I just don't know. All I know is that I'm locked out of my own house. So he got a petition for Lori to get a mental health evaluation because he was worried about it. And when they went to serve her, he had someone else do it because he was like, I need to stay away. So when they go to serve her, she wasn't home. She goes to the police station the next day with Tylee and says, yeah, I wasn't home because I just don't want the kids to be involved. Then why did you bring your child to the police station with you if you don't want them to be involved? Makes no sense. She tells the police that the whole reason why she did this was because she found out that Charles was cheating on her. And so she threw out all of his stuff and locked him out because she was mad that he cheated on her. So she did have the mental health evaluation and they said that she was fine and she was released. So Charles had rented a house for Lori to live in. Because, right, they're going through a divorce right now. She's still taking care of my children, so I'm going to rent a house for her to live in, even though she wants to kill me. So the police show up to the house on July 11th, 2019. The brother, Alex, the one who had tased Joseph, he's the one who called the cops and said, hey, I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him twice in self-defense. So when the cops show up, Lori isn't there, and Alex says that Lori wasn't there for the shooting, period. Lori shows up and she's like, no, I was there and so was Tylee. So this is what Lori said happened. She said that Charles came over to pick up JJ to take him to school, but he forgot his phone inside. So JJ was in the car, but he comes inside and Lori was snooping through his phone because he's a cheater. So she is going to snoop through his phone. Apparently he gets really mad about her snooping through his phone. So they start in an argument, and Tylee hears this and comes out with a bat to defend her mom. And he grabs the bat. This is what Lori says, right? He grabs the bat from her and is like, no, you're not going to hit me. And so he has the bat, and Alex, the brother, is like, oh, I need to go step up. I need to go take care of my sister and her kid. So he gets involved in the argument, and Charles hits him on the head with a bat. So Alex runs to his room, goes and grabs his gun, and the cops are like, why would you go back in there if you were afraid for your life? And he's like, well, I gotta protect them. So he brings a gun, and they start fighting again, and then Charles hits him again in the head with the bat. And at that time, Alex shoots him twice. So this is what they tell the police, and Tylee is obviously there, and so they have to, the only thing is that it's self-defense, and it really does look like self-defense. But there was no way that it was self-defense, because Charles used to be a semi-professional baseball player. So if he wanted to hit someone in the head with a baseball, he would have hit them in the head. Alex only had a tiny, small cut that he kept dabbing and being like, oh my goodness, look at my head, oh my gosh, oh, look at this big old cut. And they're like, dude, that's literally tiny. We only can see it because you're literally pointing at it. So if Charles had really smacked Alex twice in the head with a baseball bat, then it would have been a lot worse. Especially if it was bad enough that Alex thought he was going to die enough to shoot someone twice. He would have had to hit him a lot harder than Alex's injuries show. So the police drive Lori back to her house after being interviewed and questioned. And she's just like chatting in the back like, oh yeah, Tylee's going to go to college in Hawaii. And when she gets out of the car, this is recorded, she's like giggling And she's like, oh, sorry neighbors, sorry about all this. Oh, sorry we killed someone. And so she's saying like, sorry that you heard gunshots and that we were loud, even though she was the one who orchestrated it and had it happen. So after Charles gets shot, she's like, oh, JJ, you still gotta go to school. So that's why she wasn't there when the cops showed up, because she had to go drive JJ to school, even though his dad, his adoptive father, was just murdered. So then she decides to, because Charles has 2 other kids with his previous wife, Cheryl, and so she texts them. Doesn't call, she doesn't go see them, she texts them, your father's dead. Your dad is dead. I'm still waiting on the ME to give me more details. But she knows the details. She knows exactly what happened. She knows that her brother shot him. But she just says, yeah, I'm waiting on the ME to give me more information, to give me more details. So they start calling her and texting her, and she's not responding because she's having a pool party. So the exact same day that she kills her estranged husband, she throws a pool party at her house. And it was so loud that the neighbors said, yep, we knew she was having a pool party. It was super loud. So the kids, Charles's kids, go and tell Cheryl, and she's like, oh my goodness. And they have to look it up online how their dad died, because Lori wouldn't tell them. Lori wouldn't talk to them. And so they find out with the rest of the public how Charles died, and this is their own father. Lori didn't do a funeral service. She didn't do a memorial service, nothing. And Charles's family did. They put together a funeral, but Lori wouldn't let JJ go to it. So his adoptive father, also his biological grandnephew, wasn't allowed to go to his funeral. So Charles's family believes that he was killed because of his life insurance policy, which was $1 million. 5 months before Charles died, he tried to change the beneficiary to his sister Kay, so that JJ could be taken care of after he died. And it worked. He was able to do it, but Lori had changed his password and was doing everything in her power to not let him change the beneficiary away from her. Charles thought that if he changed it to his sister, that maybe he was saving his own life. Maybe Lori wouldn't kill him if she couldn't get his money. So it's really sad, because he knew he was going to die, and he was doing whatever he could to try and save his life. But ultimately, he wanted to protect his kids, and so that's why he, changed beneficiary, so that even if he died, they would still be taken care of. So in September 2019, a few months after his death, Lori packs up JJ and Tylee to move to Idaho to be close to Chad Daybell. So I'm going to leave this one right here. The next one is going to go all into Chad Daybell and the murders, and hopefully trial too. I don't know if it'll need 3 parts, but super crazy. Oh my gosh, it's so scary. This is her. She's on to her 4th husband, and she kills him and probably killed the 3rd husband too. Insane, very stressful, scary. Feel so bad for the children. There were so many signs, so many things people could have stepped in and been like, no, she needs these kids taken away from her. If only. So sad. But we will talk about the rest next week. Stay safe out there. If someone is talking that way, try and get their kids taken from them. I don't know. Don't just leave them. Try and help the kids and the parents if they're talking like that. That is just, and the kids shouldn't even be like exposed to that in general. But talk to you guys next week. Let me know what I should talk about after Lori Vallow, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!